When people talk about losing faith in God, they often imagine something sudden, a dramatic moment, a clear decision, a breaking point. But in real life, faith usually doesn't disappear like that. It fades quietly, slowly, almost without notice. One day you simply stop praying before sleeping, not because you don't believe anymore, but because you're tired of repeating the same words, tired of asking for strength when you already feel empty, tired of hoping for change that never seems to arrive. Then the Bible stays closed on the shelf. Not out of rebellion, but because when you open it, nothing seems to move inside you anymore. The verses feel distant. The promises feel like they were written for someone else. Someone with more faith, someone stronger, someone who isn't you. Church becomes harder too. You start missing one service, then another. You tell yourself you'll go next week. You still believe in God, but you don't feel connected. And over time, that distance grows. This is how faith weakens in everyday life. Not through anger, but through exhaustion. Not through denial, but through disappointment. You wake up, go to work, study, deal with responsibilities. You smile at people. You answer messages. You do what needs to be done. But inside, something feels disconnected. Like you're walking through life on autopilot. You still believe God exists. You just don't feel close to Him anymore. And maybe the hardest part is the guilt. You tell yourself that you should pray more, that you should read the Bible again, that you should return to church. But instead of drawing you closer to God, that pressure pushes you further away. Because now faith feels like another obligation, another thing you're failing at. The Bible speaks directly to moments like this. In the book of Revelation, there is a warning that feels painfully real for anyone who has slowly drifted away. It doesn't accuse people of abandoning God completely. It says they lost their first love. They were still there, still active, still present, but the passion, the closeness, the intimacy was gone. This happens when faith turns into routine, when prayer becomes mechanical, when worship becomes habit instead of connection, when God becomes a concept instead of a presence. And when life gets heavy, routine is usually the first thing to collapse. There are seasons when life doesn't slow down to give you space to believe. Bills don't wait, problems don't pause, pain doesn't reschedule itself. So you begin to carry everything alone, not intentionally, but gradually. At first you still think about praying, then you think about it less, then not at all. And one day you realize that it's been a long time since you last talked to God honestly. Not with rehearsed words, not with religious language, but honestly, and silence grows. But here is something important that many people misunderstand. God is not absent during your silence. Your faith may feel weak, but His presence has not changed. The book of Hebrews reminds us of this truth with clarity. It says God is. Faith is not about your consistency. It's about His character. Even when you stop praying, God does not stop being God. Even when you stop reading Scripture, His word does not lose power. Even when you stop going to church, He does not stop watching over you. Sometimes we confuse emotional distance with spiritual abandonment, but they are not the same thing. God understands seasons of dryness. He understands exhaustion. He understands disappointment. He understands silence. The problem is not that you stopped doing spiritual things. The problem is that you started believing that God expects perfection from you. And because you feel like you can't offer Him your best, you offer Him nothing. But God never asked for perfection. He asked for honesty. There are moments when the strongest prayer you can pray is not a long sentence, but a single word. Help! Stay. I'm tired. Faith is not measured by how often you go to church, how long you pray, or how many verses you read. Faith is measured by where you turn when you feel lost, even if you haven't turned to God in a while. The fact that you're still thinking about Him, still missing Him, still questioning your distance, is already evidence that He is working inside you. One of the most powerful promises in Scripture speaks directly to people who feel far from God. Even if your prayers feel empty, even if you don't know what to say, you don't need to return to God with strength. You return with surrender. Sometimes coming near to God looks like sitting in silence and saying nothing. Sometimes it looks like listening instead of speaking. Sometimes it looks like admitting that you don't feel anything at all. And that's okay, because God does not reject broken faith. He restores it. Faith is not lost because you stop doing religious activities. Faith weakens when pain is ignored, when doubts are suppressed, and when questions are treated as sins instead of invitations to deeper understanding. God is not afraid of your questions. He is not threatened by your doubts. He is not disappointed by your weakness. He is patient. The problem is that many people walk away from God not because they don't believe, but because they believe they have failed Him beyond repair. But the truth is, you are not the first person to feel distant from God, and you won't be the last. Even in the Bible, there are stories of people who felt abandoned, tired, confused, and silent before God. Yet God remained faithful. Faith is not always fire. Sometimes it is just a small ember, quiet, almost invisible. but still alive, and God knows how to breathe life back into it. You don't need to restart your faith with big gestures. You don't need dramatic promises. You don't need to suddenly become someone else. You just need to return one step at a time. One honest prayer, one moment of openness, one decision to stop running from God and start walking toward Him again, even slowly, even imperfectly, because faith does not end when you stop praying. It ends when you stop believing that God still wants you. And God has never stopped wanting you, even now.